president is being smart. He's not showing his cards at this point. And what he'll do is engage in the negotiations between the House and Senate and then put his own particular twist into it.
Did you hear the one report with Newt Gingrich recommended that Paul Ryan just step down?
Well, that's ironic with Newt Gingrich having been forced out of the House, having lost confidence with its members. Paul Ryan is not going to step down. It's just not going to happen.
Now, why is he even bringing that up at this point? I mean, the presidency, 50 days in, quit already? I mean, give me a break. I mean, even Newt was around a lot longer.
Yeah. Well, Newt was in, I think, almost 5 years, 6 years. Basically, Newt, let's be specific. He was in 2005, 6, 7, 8. He was 4 years. Dropped out in 99. Basically, Newt is a provocateur. Newt is doesn't have the best judgment in the world when it comes to politics, and it shows.
Yeah,
he's got good money behind him.
Sure,
Sheldon Adelson and others, but not good judgment in that sense.
No, and maybe a lot of this is for the TV. He likes to keep himself on television these days.
Yeah, that's right. If he keeps himself on television and visible, then he can make $30,000 to $50,000 a speech going out with these trade associations.
Yeah,
that always gets into it. Some of these ex-guys will make anywhere from $2 to $6 million a year just doing speeches.
Wow.
It's these trade associations. They'll advertise their members and they'll say, "Okay, come with us to Las Vegas or wherever."
Sure.
And their special speaker is going to be X, former speaker, former senator, former this or that. And they'll put them on a stage and they'll be interviewed. And you see this played all the time on TV, and they'll get 20, 30, 40, 50,000 for it. The Clintons were getting 50 to 200,000 for it. Although I bet their fees are down now. It's clear that she's not going to be president.
Yeah, and then the foundation money's dried up. I understand that's a big problem for them.
Well, it always was a soft slush fund is what it really was.
Oh yeah, they were drawing off it. Sure,
they were drawing off of it. They had their staff off of it. They paid expenses off of it, jets off of it, etc. And it was legitimate criticism in the political campaign. It was legitimate for Bernie Sanders to criticize, and it was legitimate for Donald Trump to criticize.
What happens, though, when, Donald Trump obviously adversarial with the Clintons, but before the whole campaign kicked off, they were friends. He was, the Clintons, both of them were at his wedding. So, politics can be down and dirty. There's still these campaigns online where you see click here if you think that Donald Trump should still prosecute Hillary Clinton, that she goes to jail. You see that all over the place. You've seen those, right, Pat?
Yep, I have.
Newsmax has them.
Well, basically what happens at those levels, it's like some professional wrestling where it's just a show. Okay, you're going to win tonight, and I'm going to slam you down 3 times, and you're going to get angry and attack the referee, etc. In many of those cases, that's all it boils down to. Now, in the case of the Clintons and Trump, I think it really got personal with the Clintons because they thought they were going to win, and so they would tolerate Trump. On the other hand, Trump is very thin-skinned, and I would expect, to be honest about it, there will be White House events where all the ex-presidents come. The Clintons will come. He'll treat them graciously. They'll act graciously, and they'll just move on with it.
It's interesting. I mean, big people do that, and even the Bushes have been able to come back around again. And, I mean, they were there during the inauguration. The H was in the hospital with Barbara at that time. They're out, which is it didn't look good for both of them, but now they're out. I guess it's just...
George W. Bush and his wife and the Obamas have become friends. It's very interesting. I think it is because they're part of the most exclusive club in the world, and the other side understands it. And
it's got to be.
Basically, at that level, they just write it off and just say, "Hey, that's just part of the showbiz part of politics."
It's got to be. It's got to be. Trump's of a different kilt, though, in many respects. I mean, I guess the part that you just brought up, I think there's a lot of truth credence to that. But at the same token, I was mentioning on the first half of the show, getting her or his marching orders from a communist, from a really strange bent guy on trying to bring down the greatness of America, Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. I mean, if you subscribe, to that garbage, in a book that was dedicated to Satan, I mean, if that's really what you believe, I mean, we would have to talk about other things besides what's going on in Washington. It'd have to be about golf. It'd have to be about vacationing.
It would be that, or it could be sports. It could be, you could get into a million different topics that are going on. It could be about kids. It could be about grandkids.
Yeah.
So,
there's other things.
People can be civil.
That's true.
And just recognize that the fights are political fights. It happens all the time inside Congress. You got 535 members there, and you'll have a large number of them that will be there 10, 20, 30 years of time. And so in some cases, they'll be with someone on an issue, and then other times they'll be against somebody on an issue. The most successful ones are real pros. They do not make it personal. They fight over the issues. It was like Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill. They were tough opponents.
Yeah,
I was there. At 6 o'clock, many nights, Reagan would have Tip O'Neill down to have dinner with he and Nancy Reagan.
Wow.
And,
okay.
They would have some scotch, and they'd tell Irish stories and laugh. They personally liked each other, and they personally fought. Just like the toughest of advocates. There are a lot of people in Washington that are that way. Where you get into trouble is when you personalize it. Is where it comes in and you're asking people to hate the other person, and you actually fall into the trap of hating the other person, and they hate you. That makes compromise and working things out very difficult, very difficult.
Do you think the left has gone way too far this time around with Donald Trump?
I think in some cases they are, but what they're doing is what the right did to Obama in 2009.
So is this payback?
And, a big part of it is payback, but a lot of it has nothing to do with vengeance. That just has to do what do they think will work. And for the news media, it is all about money. Fox makes about $1 billion a year by being inflammatory.
My goodness.
Take a look at MS. Yeah, take a look. They got to draw. If they can draw the audience for whatever they say, they can sell the ads. They can make the money. They can take a $5,000 30-second spot and run it up to $100,000 or $200,000.
Yeah,
dollars.
It's big money.
Big money. Now what you have is MSNBC is doing the same thing. Rachel Maddow's show and Chris Hayes and
interesting shows.
Yeah, they're doing massive audiences right now, and their fees are up. I mean, they've never made so much money. So a big part of this has
ratings.
To be
ratings. Yeah.
Ratings. Pull the audience.
Yeah. Kind of like the late night shows, and they're popular. There's so many comedians that didn't want to do politics, and then they were yelled and chastised from the audience that wanted to hear of it. They can't get enough of it.
Well, look at Colbert. Colbert has gone ahead of Jimmy Fallon by doing a monologue about Donald Trump every night. So it may not be a representative audience for the nation, but it's a big audience for the advertisers, and the CBS can really bump its ad rates.
You've done a lot of dancing in Washington, so you know that this has gone on. It's not a lot of new things, but what is new is the tactics, the the Donald, if you will. I mean, they mentioned Andrew Jackson, adversarial. Lincoln was a little adversarial. But the media's, Hollywood, the media, I mean, 99% of them, I mean, were in love with Barack Obama, and they make they're very upfront with what they believe on their shows. You listen to the Morning Joe. I mean, these people hate Donald Trump, but gosh, don't they do a disservice to all the Americans, including liberals, that voted for Donald Trump this time around?
Well, basically what we're doing is going back to 19th and early 20th century journalism. Back in those times when newspapers were the primary means of communication, what you would have in a town, you would have a newspaper that would be named the Republican so-and-so or the Democrat so-and-so. The newspapers were very partisan. So to get a view of the news, many people would take 2 or 3 newspapers every day because they knew they were getting a slant in it. But when you went through the Depression and you came out of the Depression, you had a big consolidation of newspapers. And so the way that they maintained both the liberal and the conservative audience, they went into this whole thing of balanced news as such. On one hand this, on the other hand that.
Yeah.
And that was a business decision. But what has now happened with the electronic media and the wide access and the free, we're going back really to the 19th century model, but it's coming off electronically, it's coming off of talk radio. Talk radio, I think most of us forget, is still a fairly new phenomenon in this country.
Yeah.
Where you can get different views on it. You'll have PBS doing one thing, and then you'll have other shows such as yours and others that will take on specific issues, and audiences will surround that to get information that they can use. And all in all, I think that's a pretty good thing.
Keeping the conversation going, and I think, you mentioned something keyword, not taking it personal when it comes to the politics, because it really has become a sport. I mean, it is a sport to many.
Oh, yeah. And for many, it's a way of making money. The big commercial networks, it is a way of hold that audience and sell those ads.
That's just it. It's ratings, and I guess that's the way people have to look at it. And I think people have been smarter about it, because had they believed everything that they saw with NBC, CBS, ABC, Donald Trump would have never been the president. That's
right. Well, I think in some ways their opposition is what validated him to a large part of the electorate. They say, if these guys are so rabidly against him, and they are central to the establishment, there may be something there. And his promises were things that resonated across the country, particularly those 5 million plus workers who had lost their jobs in those communities. It's been devastating.
That's real.
NAFTA.
Yeah.
That was real. It's real. And he's shaking things up. And whether you like him or don't like him, whether you're offended by him or not offended by him. Yeah, he's shaking things up, and that's good.
A little shake up in Washington ain't a bad thing.
That is a very good thing.
It's a good thing.
And now you've got the dynamics. If he's gone too far in his immigration bans, there are the courts. If his budget is really not what the American people want, that'll get worked out over the next 6 or 7 months by the give and take
you bet.
Of Congress. The shake-up is a good thing, though. The shake-up is really a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, clearing the house. Cleaning the house a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Make the establishment, make our people discuss issues and think about it. Let's just be honest. A good part of our population in this country had just turned off on politics, weren't paying attention, weren't talking about where the country is and should be going. That process is beginning right now, and that's a good thing.
It is, and they're getting back to work. I think one of the things that really resonated, you mentioned it, the economy, jobs, and good paying jobs.
More and better jobs.